Story 1. Vanishing in the Mojave, a hitchhiking tragedy. The sun beat down mercilessly on the vast expanse of the Mojave Desert as I stood by the side of the desolate highway, my thumb outstretched in a futile attempt to hitch a ride. The shimmering heat waves danced on the horizon, distorting reality and casting an eerie haze over the barren landscape. I had heard the stories of the dangers that lurked in these unforgiving lands, but desperation had driven me to take the risk. After what felt like an eternity, a beat-up old pickup truck screeched to a halt in front of me. The driver, a grizzled man with sun-weathered skin and a sinister glint in his eyes, leaned over and pushed open the passenger door. Without a word, I climbed in, the acrid stench of sweat and stale cigarettes assaulting my senses. As we drove deeper into the desert, the man's demeanor grew increasingly unsettling. He spoke in hushed tones about the disappearances that plagued these desolate roads, his eyes darting nervously to the rearview mirror. I tried to ignore the rising sense of dread that gnawed at my insides, focusing instead on the passing Joshua trees and rocky outcrops that blurred past the window. Suddenly, the truck lurched to a stop, kicking up a cloud of dust that enveloped us in a choking haze. My heart pounded in my chest as the man turned to me, his features twisted in a malevolent grin. In that moment, I knew I had made a grave mistake. Before I could react, he lunged at me with a rusty blade glinting in his hand. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I fought back, the metallic tang of blood filling the air. In a desperate bid for survival, I managed to wrench the knife from his grasp and stagger out of the truck, my hands slick with crimson. I stumbled through the desert, the searing heat and blinding sun blurring my vision. Shadows danced at the edge of my consciousness, whispering cruel promises of salvation and damnation. Each step felt like a Herculean effort, my body pushed to its limits by fear and exhaustion. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the desert in a cloak of darkness, I collapsed to my knees, my breath ragged and labored. In that moment of despair, a distant light flickered on the horizon, drawing me towards its elusive promise of salvation. Hours later, I was rescued by a passing patrol car, my body battered and broken but my spirit unbroken. The authorities never found the man or his truck, and my harrowing ordeal was dismissed as a figment of my imagination. But as I lay in my hospital bed, haunted by the memories of that fateful day, I knew that the Mojave Desert held secrets far darker than anyone could imagine. And though I had survived, a part of me would forever remain lost in its unforgiving sands. Anonymous Spectator Story. Story 2. The chilling haunt of an abandoned highway. As I stood on the desolate stretch of road, the wind whispered eerie secrets through the rustling leaves of the surrounding trees. The abandoned highway loomed before me like a gaping maw, swallowing all who dared to venture down its crumbling pavement. I shivered, a sense of foreboding creeping over me as I recalled the tales of horror that had befallen those who had crossed paths with this cursed place. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to dance and twist in the fading light. I hesitated, my thumb outstretched, hoping for a passing car to rescue me from this forsaken place. But as the minutes turned to hours, it became clear that I was alone, at the mercy of whatever malevolent force called this highway home. I had heard stories of travelers who had vanished without a trace, their empty cars found days later, doors ajar and keys still in the ignition. Others spoke of ghostly hitchhikers who appeared out of thin air, their faces twisted in agony as they begged for a ride to nowhere. And then there were the rumors of a vengeful spirit, a woman in white who roamed the highway, seeking retribution for a long-forgotten injustice. A chill ran down my spine as I heard the faint sound of footsteps behind me. I turned, but there was no one there, only the empty road stretching out into the darkness. Panic clawed at my chest as I quickened my pace, the shadows closing in around me like grasping hands. Suddenly, a figure materialized before me, a spectral form bathed in an otherworldly glow. It was the woman in white, her eyes burning with a fierce intensity as she fixed me with a haunting gaze. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my ears as I realized the truth of her presence. She was the victim of a hit-and-run accident that had occurred on this very highway years ago. Her spirit, unable to find peace, now sought vengeance on any who dared to trespass on her domain. I could feel her anger radiating off her in waves, a palpable force that threatened to consume me whole. With a blood-curdling scream, she lunged towards me, her ethereal form passing through my body like a blast of icy wind. I fell to my knees, gasping for breath as I felt her presence seep into my very soul. In that moment of terror, I understood the bitter taste of regret, the price to be paid for crossing paths with the restless dead. As darkness closed in around me, I knew that I would never escape the chilling haunt of the abandoned highway. My fate was sealed, a cautionary tale for any who dared to tempt the wrath of those who linger between the worlds of the living and the dead. Anonymous Spectator Story. Story 3. Real Incident Desert Highway Disappearance.
Você se encontra em uma estrada deserta, o sol escaldante castigando a paisagem árida ao seu redor. O asfalto ondula sob o calor intenso, e você sente um arrepio percorrer sua espinha ao perceber que está completamente sozinho. A poeira levantada pelo vento forma redemoinhos ao longo da estrada, criando uma atmosfera de desolação e abandono. Enquanto caminha pela beira da estrada, você avista um carro parado mais adiante. A princípio, você hesita em se aproximar, mas a curiosidade acaba vencendo o medo. Ao chegar mais perto, você percebe que o veículo está vazio, as portas abertas e o motor ainda quente. Um arrepio percorre seu corpo, e você sente que algo está muito errado. Decidindo investigar mais a fundo, você adentra o deserto ao lado da estrada, seguindo pegadas que parecem ter sido deixadas recentemente. O sol começa a se pôr no horizonte, tingindo o céu de tons avermelhados, e você sente uma sensação de inquietação crescente. À medida que avança pelo deserto, você se depara com um acampamento improvisado, composto por tendas rasgadas e restos de fogueiras já apagadas. O silêncio ao seu redor é ensurdecedor, e você tem a nítida sensação de estar sendo observado. Subitamente, você ouve um murmúrio vindo de uma das tendas. Seu coração dispara no peito, e você se vê paralisado pelo medo. Com passos hesitantes, você se aproxima da tenda e abre a lona lentamente. O que você vê lá dentro é perturbador. Figuras encapuzadas estão reunidas ao redor de uma fogueira, murmurando palavras em uma língua desconhecida. Seus olhos brilham com uma intensidade sobrenatural, e você sente um calafrio percorrer sua espinha. Antes que você consiga reagir, as figuras se viram na sua direção, os rostos ocultos pelas sombras dos capuzes. Em um movimento sincronizado, eles se levantam e avançam na sua direção, mãos estendidas em sua direção. Um grito escapa de seus lábios, ecoando pelo deserto desolado. Você vira as costas e corre desesperadamente, a sensação de perigo iminente crescendo a cada passo. O som de passos rápidos atrás de você faz com que seu coração acelere ainda mais, e você sabe que precisa escapar dali o mais rápido possível. Com a respiração ofegante, você finalmente alcança a estrada deserta, sem olhar para trás. O carro abandonado ainda está lá, mas você não hesita em entrar e acelerar para longe daquele lugar maldito. Enquanto a estrada desaparece sob as rodas do veículo, você se pergunta o que teria acontecido se tivesse demorado mais um instante naquele acampamento sinistro. Uma sensação de alívio misturada com terror o envolve, deixando com a certeza de que há mistérios sombrios escondidos nos desertos inóspitos deste mundo.
Anonymous Spectator Story.